According to the madam. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. The session today is on design thinking. But before I start my session, let me first tell you something about International Internship University, which is IIU, which is actually a leading virtual education system and a global brand confederation, which is the most valuable and trusted worldwide and well reputed in delivering innovative programs. Globally, it is a trusted name for quality training programs and is committed to providing better and virtual education to all young learners across the globe. In a short span of time, IIU has spread its wings in 195 countries and 6 continents under the strong leadership of its visionary leader, the founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit sir, a committed and inspiring social activist and a passionate educationist from the last 2 decades, providing education to students and who are from various social and cultural backgrounds. Okay, so that's basically about IIU. So I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Professor Dr. Subrata Chattopadhyay from University of Engineering and Management, Kolkata. So I'm heading the Business Administration Department out here. So the topic that I will be deliberating on for the next 45-50 minutes or so is on design thinking. Now, what do you understand by design thinking? What is design thinking all about? Let us first understand that. You see, all of us, from the time we get up in the morning till we go off to sleep, right? Our lives follow a certain pattern, a certain design. So even the products that we use, the services that we use, they also are the outcome of design. So design thinking is of prime importance in today's life. More so because there is a lot of disruption happening, and we are passing through a turbulent phase, a state of turmoil, in which we have seen that we had the VUCA times, and then the COVID times, and after that we are emerging into a hybrid world. So online and offline is happening, and products and services are also evolving, and it's a dynamic world actually, wherein the customers' tastes, choices, and preferences are changing over time. So hence the companies and even the service providers, the product manufacturers, they have to think about how to create a sustainable design, how to create an innovative design, how to understand the customer's mind, how to create a design which would be loved by the customers. And hence, what is happening these days is that companies are resorting to co-creation as well, which means that they are actually taking the customers into consideration in designing the products. Now, let us, first of all, understand the 4 pillars of design thinking. Okay, I hope you can see the change of slides. The 4 pillars of design thinking. So first of all, when you talk about design thinking, first it starts with empathy. And what is that? It's basically you are designing the product for the customers, for the buyers. So are you involving the customers' tastes, choices, and preferences that are changing and what they want? Are you doing that? So that's very important in understanding the design process. Okay. So the next important step in understanding design thinking is collaboration. You see, before COVID or in the last decade, what we have seen is that companies were actually competing with each other. But now what has happened is it is an age of collaboration. So the more you collaborate, the more synergistic would be the outcomes. So hence, collaboration is very important in the design thinking perspective. So this is the second pillar of design thinking. The next is inclusion. Now, what do you understand by inclusion? See, basically, it has to be inclusive of all the stakeholders who are involved in the design thinking process. So that's inclusion. The next is, you see, when we come up with a particular design, when companies come up with a particular design, it's not that they will stick to that particular design, but then they will understand that how the requirements from the recipient's end is and how it is changing and how it is evolving, and based on which it has to be iterated. Even when you are coming up with the first product, there also, you see, the repetition and iteration is required, because you do not come up with the final design at the first go. So there has to be several changes that may be required when you pass it on, before you pass it on to the stakeholders for final approval. So the design thought process actually undergoes a number of iterations, a number of repetitions, and before it is finally accepted. So basically what we discussed till now is about empathizing with the people's needs. Very important, number 1. Number 2, collaborate with others across disciplines, skill sets, and perspectives. The next is include every idea in the visible form for evaluation. And this is very important. We may come up with a particular business idea, but then that idea may not be visible for evaluation. So it is very important that the idea is tested and then undergoes through a number of stages before it is finally accepted. So hence, brainstorming with all the stakeholders is very important. The next is repeating, iterating, and testing solutions to perfect them, always with the human needs at the center. So these are basically the 4 pillars of design thinking. Moving on. So you can see, as I was telling, that people, you can see brainstorming about a particular idea which would lead to a particular product or a service design. And these ideas from different people about the product or service, in the initial stage, people can give their different ideas, which can be, actually stick on the, the sticky papers are there, and there is a design team which goes through all of them to understand whether, which of the ideas are feasible and taken to the next phase. So this is very important in understanding the design process. So having understood the 4 pillars of design thinking, let us now understand what design thinking is all about and what is the definition of design thinking. So design thinking, you see, is neither an art, nor a science, nor a religion. It is the capacity ultimately for integrative thinking. And that's what Tim Brown, one of the top thinkers of design thinking, has to say. So design thinking is basically a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of the people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So you must be knowing about, have heard about, IIU. So IIU is, one of the pioneers in the design thinking process, right? So product design, joint program in design, they conduct different programs in design thinking. Now, we need to understand that there is a difference between design and design thinking. When we talk about design, design is about individuals. So individuals can come up with a particular design. They can think and design about the products or the services, which involves actually, engineering as well as art. But when you talk about design thinking involves teams, it involves experiences, and it is not only engineering and art that we had seen for design, but when you talk about design thinking, it's basically an assimilation of technology, business, and human thoughts. Okay. So having understood the 4 pillars of design thinking and the definition of design thinking, let us now move on to the 10 principles of design thinking. So what is design thinking? Design thinking actually encompasses the objectives of design thinking. Is it's action oriented, it supports change, it focuses on the human, develops foresight, is dynamic and iterative, as we have seen in the 4 pillars of design thinking. It promotes empathy, reduces risks, and creates shared meaning. It relies on an adaptable process and combines logic and creativity. So these are the foundation principles of design thinking. Now there is something called design index. Now what is design value index is, as you can see on the graph that is shown. So design value index for different companies from 2005 to 2015. And it involves companies like Apple, Coca-Cola, Ford, Herman Miller, so the top companies that you think of. So what is the value of the design that they have generated vis-a-vis the different years. The years are shown on the x-axis. The y-axis is about the design value that the companies have generated. Now, this is about companies that innovate. So you can see companies which can go for supply chain innovation, supply chain inventory management, food spectrometry, okay, to identify composition. Like a supermarket can go for supply chain inventory management, food spectrometry to identify composition. Similarly, Starbucks can go about social good, food and design, and they can think about how they can do subtle change in the design process so that the design is more acceptable to the stakeholders, and that would actually give them a more of a market share and improve the positioning and the value in the marketplace. So you can see over here the world's 25 most innovative companies, so most innovative companies in the world, and you can see Apple stands at number 1, and then we have Google, IBM, and so on, right? Microsoft, and so on, right? So based on the innovation in the design process, and they're coming up with products. And I always talk about Apple, as we have seen, and this is a company which started with Steve Jobs started with manufacturing computers, and from computers they moved on to iPod, and then iPad, and then iPhone, then iWatches. So they have actually innovated and designed according to what the customer requirements are, and they have designed the products to the excellence. So that's very important. Let me tell you an example of a company, and this is a US-based food giant, which actually was facing difficulty in serving burgers to the customers. And this is a classic change in design which they have done so as to serve the customers fast and be effective and efficient in their delivery process. So what they did is that since the restaurant joint was very popular among the customers, so at different points of time, especially in the peak hours, there was a huge queue, and because of this queue, the customers had to wait for a long time. So what they did is that they had kept a box wherein the customers would just pay for what they require, and they had kept certain tokens, some coupons, right, which had to be given to the counter, and the food was prepared, it was cooked, and it was served to the customers. So the customers did not wait for a long time to pay and then order the food and then get it delivered. So it saved a lot of time. So a little change in the design process, even by small food giants, can actually create wonders. Okay, so basically when we talk about design thinking, it is non-denominational. That is, when we talk about design thinking, it is not the sole domain of the designer or the design manager, and it is practiced throughout the organization. So when we talk about any change in the design process, any innovations that we want to do, it is not, as I said, when we talk about design thinking, it is not about individuals, but it is about teams. And when we talk about teams, it means that all the different departments have to work integratedly so that there can be an innovative change in the design process. So design thinking also means to align. That is, you align the internal culture. It aligns with the external brand offer. The enterprise is optimized for creativity, for agility, and efficacy. The next important perspective of design thinking is to deliver creativity. I hope by now you have understood that when we talk about a particular design, we have to first of all be creative. So the left brain and the right brain, so both the lobes have to work together. So there has to be logic, and at the same time there has to be imagination. So the customer-centric language to discuss the opportunities available to the organization is very important to deliver creativity. The next is about experiential. So when you talk about design thinking is experiential in nature because it creates solutions from the user need perspective. As I said at the very outset, that when you talk about a particular design, it has to be from the user perspective rather than through the conventional approach of defining a potential market and force filling solutions. So it's about understanding that what is going on in the user's mind and be sync and integrated with the user's expectations. The next important perspective is about predictive mechanism. Now, what's that? So as I said, that when you talk about design, you need to understand that how the changes in the design process would impact your demand. So it is fundamental starting point of design thinking. So the process itself can be a hedge against the interruptive nature of technology and cultural shifts. So startups like Airbnb actually uses the predictive mechanism so as to understand that what would be the demand level. And as you know that Airbnb is world's largest when you talk about hospitality, it's world's largest. But then they don't own any property. So they have designed in such a way that they use the property of the different people and make for convenient stay at different hotels, restaurants, and the different residences. Okay, so you need to understand that what would be the prediction, and that's how you need to customize your design process. So the predictive mechanism has to be in place in such a way that you can actually meet the demand and supply, and there can be there would not be too much of a surplus or there would not be deficit. So it's very important, especially for the services design process. Say for example, if we talk about milk distribution, so how do you understand, say for example, in a city, what would be the demand for milk for a particular day? So when there are different events, like we have the Christmas coming in, so the demand for milk would increase. Now, how much of increase would be there? And at the same time, this companies has to understand that they are into business of perishable products. So the shelf life of the products is also very less. So they need to understand that what would be the demand for a particular day, and based on which the production would be there. And also they need to understand that how they can reach to the customers at the earliest. So even before, say for example, you order a particular product online and they say that they would deliver in 7 days. So do you have the ways and means so as to deliver in half the time? How do you design your logistics process so that you can deliver the products to the customers in the right condition uh, within half the time that you have given to the customers? And how do you reduce that time? So very important to perspectives in the design thinking process. I'll just do something. I'll try to show videos. Let me see. Just a minute. Okay. There is some problem with the video possibly. Let me see. Yeah. Just give me a minute. I'll just show you a beautiful video about how the design thinking process works. Just give me a minute, please. Design. Yeah. I'll just try to share the screen. I hope you can see the video. Just give me a minute.
Design thinking is a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It has brought many businesses lots of happy customers and helped entrepreneurs from all around the world to solve problems with innovative new solutions. Step 1. Empathize. The purpose of step 1 is to conduct interviews that give you an idea about what people really care about. We need to empathize with their situation. For example, if you want to help old people, you might find that they want to keep the ability to walk around. In your conversations, they might share with you different ways they can do that. Later into the interview, you'll want to dig a little deeper, look for personal stories or situations where things became difficult. Ideally, you redo the process with many people with the same problem. Step 2. Define the problem. Looking at the interviews, you can now understand the actual needs that people are trying to fulfill with certain activities. One way to do that is to underline the verbs or activities that the people mentioned when talking about their problems, like going for a walk, meeting old friends for tea, or simply going grocery shopping around the corner store. You might realize it's not so much about going out, but more about staying in touch. After your analysis, formulate a problem statement. Some elderly are afraid to be lonely. They want to stay connected. Step 3. Ideate. Now focus only on the problem statement and come up with ideas that solve the problem. The point is not to get a perfect idea, but rather to come up with many ideas, like unique virtual reality experiences, senior-friendly hoverboards, or a modified pushcart. Whatever it is, sketch up your best ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversations about the different ideas. Ask yourself, how does your idea fit in the context of people's actual lives? Your solution could be a combination of a new idea and what is already being used. Then connect the dots, sketch up your final solution, and go build a real prototype that's just good enough to be tested. Step 5. Test. Now test your prototype with actual users. Don't defend your idea in case people don't like it. The point is to learn what works and what didn't, so any feedback is great. Then go back to ideation or prototyping and apply your learning. Repeat the process until you have a prototype that works and solves the real problem. Now you are ready to change the world or or open shop. To experience design thinking firsthand, do the free virtual design thinking crash course from Stanford's D School right now. You will learn to design a new gift-giving experience. Find the
Okay, so I think you got the basic idea about what design thinking is all about. So I'll go on to the presentation once again and share the screen. Okay, so moving on. So you can see, these are some of the innovations and great designs which have come up. On the left, you can see the first computer that was designed by Charles Babbage, and two, the present laptops, and how sleek they are in the design process. So you have laptops, palm tops, and uh, changes are coming in the design process and leading to more innovations and inventions. This you can see, all of us, we know how the wheel came about. So this was the first wheel that was there, and to the present day wheels in the automobiles that we come on. Uh, in fact, coming to automobiles, a lot of changes in the automobiles is coming up with alternative fuel driven cars. So EVs are already there, and with a lot of research is going on how to use different alternative fuels so as to propel more of design thinking inventions. Also, maybe 10 or 20 years down the line, we will have driverless car, and in the developing countries as well. Already in the developed countries, there are companies like Mercedes who have come up with self-driven cars, driverless cars. So and all these is an outcome of design thinking. This is again some more examples which I think is self-explanatory, simple changes how they can bring out. So you can see the cup over here with tea, and you don't need a plate, right? So the biscuits can be just placed under the cup. So a lot of inventions in the design thinking process. Just watch this. Okay, isn't it wonderful? So design thinking innovations and inventions in process. Okay, so this is about South Indian food, called idli with sambar and dal and etc., which actually is round in shape, but they have been made into ice cream shape, and innovation in process, changing the design. Because you see, all of us, we love to have changes, and have to have new things to be introduced. So this is another innovation in the design thinking process. The next one, I hope all of you would agree, is wonderful, right? So it is all-in-one work from home appliance. So you can see the screen is there, the keyboard is there in place, and everything into one, which is also portable. So classic design in process. Okay, so having said all this, let us understand that what can be the sweet spot for innovation. So when we talk about innovation, right, it is about desirability, it is about viability, and it is about feasibility. Now, what is desirability? Desirability is about a desirable solution, one that your customer really needs. Viability is a profitable solution with a sustainable business model. And feasibility is about how do you come up with a feasible solution building on the strengths of your current operational capabilities. Now, when we talk about innovation in the design thinking process, and the sweet spot of innovation would be the intersection of these three circles, which means that innovation in the design process would include desirability, viability, and feasibility. All these three. So coming to the process of the design thinking, so design is a process which encourages the participants to think outside the box. You see, when I take sessions on design thinking, I always suggest this example. See, all of us, we remain confined to the boundaries of our thought process. And this is called the matchbox syndrome. That means, you see, a matchbox, the matchsticks which are there in the matchbox, it needs to be, the matchstick needs to be taken out and it needs to be kindled before the sparks come. So when you talk about design thinking, it is actually thinking outside the box, outside our comfort zone, outside our convenience, to create products and services which can be innovative, which can be creative, which can lead to a particular design which may be beyond the imagination of many. So design thinking proposes get your hands dirty, learning by doing approach. So design thinking is about learning by doing, and successful businesses are making billions by recognizing the value of integrating design thinking into their process. So design thinking actually shifts the focus from a business-centric engineering solution to a customer-centric solution. So I said many a times already that when you talk about design thinking, it's about creating customer-centric solutions and not business-centric solutions. So this is very important to understand in the design thinking process. So having said that, let us now understand what are the steps in the design thinking process. So according to the Stanford Design School, which incidentally is the first and the best design school in the world, they have categorized the 5 stages of the design thinking process. First is empathize, define, then ideate, prototype, and test. What is empathize? It means to create meaningful innovations. You need to know your users and care about their lives. Next is define, which is about framing the right problem, which is the only way to create the right solution. So you have to understand what is the right problem and how do you go about creating the right solution to the problem. Next is ideate. So ideation is not about coming up with the right idea, it's about generating the broadest range of possibilities. And next is prototype, which is to build to think and test to learn. So build to think and then test to learn. And after you create the prototype, then you test the prototype, which is an opportunity to learn about your solution and your user. So these are basically the 5 stages of the design thinking process So empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So I hope by now we have understood that design thinking is a process. It is about empathy, it is about ideation, defining, and then create a prototype and then test. So it's a cyclical process, right? You empathize and then synthesize and then define again and then ideate, prototype. So it's a continuous process which goes on. And it's a collaborative process involving the different teams in an organization, which actually leads to uh, a final design which can be acceptable to the customers, which can create a lot of value among the customers. So design is a process, and it is a process wherein one has divergent thinking and then convergent thinking as well. So when you talk about empathize and refrain, so empathize is, you actually try to put yourself in different people's shoes and try to understand. So since you are putting yourself into different people's shoes, so it is divergent in nature. And when you come up, with understanding the needs of the different people and assimilate that, that is basically reframing. And after that, what you do is that you converge on the requirements of the different people and move on from a design challenge to a design solution. So then you start again ideating. And when you talk about ideating, it's about different people's ideas into place. So that is divergent in nature. And then we move on to again converging when you prototype and test. So that is into the solution space. So ideation and prototype testing is in the solution space, whereas in the problem space is about empathize and refrain. So this is basically the flow of the design thinking process. I'll again stop sharing the presentation and try to show you another video. Just give me a minute's time. Just a minute, please. I'll try to show you that how design thinking innovation. I'll take two companies. One is Apple, the other is PepsiCo. And we'll try to show that how the design thinking process works in these companies. Just hang on. I'll just share the screen. Yeah.
Design thinking and innovation at Apple, a Harvard business case that won 2013 ECCH Case Award. The authors of the business case are Harvard Business School professor Stephen Tomke and independent researcher Barbara Feinberg. The summary and the presentation are created by Li Wei, Technology Commercialization Manager from Agency for Science, Technology and Research, Singapore. The full business case is available from Harvard Business Review. In 2012, Apple became the most valuable public traded company in history, with $600 share price, $620 billion market capital, and $100 billion annual sales. Apple's success was not just the result of strategic moves or innate sense of market timing. It is a surprising consistency in the way the company worked. Simply put, the Apple way. First, design thinking. Those of us on the original Macintosh team were really excited about what we were doing. The result was that people saw a Mac and fell in love with it. There was an emotional connection. That, I think, came from the heart and soul of the design team. Bill Atkinson, member of Apple Macintosh development team. In the mid-1970s, computers were typically housed in discrete locations and only used by specialists. The notion of computer as a tool for individual work was unimaginable in the 1970s. To help people love their equipment and the experience of using it, the level of complexity needed to be reduced dramatically. Apple's product starts with design, from people's need and want. The design of the product is not limited by technology. The engineers are pushed to use the same kind of creativity and innovation to make it happen. Design is very well thought through. It is beyond fashion. The capacity and technology to build it is not commoditized, and no compromise for the functionalities. This is design thinking, a combination of user desirability, technology possibility, and market viability. Smallest of details are scrutinized, not just the appearance of the product, but also its functions, features, and packaging. The design team kept on going deep until they found the key underlying principle of a problem, then built on it. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. That simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Second, strategy and execution. You can see a lot just by observing. Yogi Berra, Major League Baseball player and manager. Apple's history began in 1976. It launched the first personal computer, Apple II, in 1978. In 1981, IBM entered the market with its PC that can be cloned. Since 1985, Apple's market share kept declining. The board of Apple axed Steve Jobs. In the following 11 years, products and projects at Apple proliferated in consequence of various strategies, and many of them failed. The technology department process became more traditional and resembled approaches found at other companies. The process makes you more efficient, but innovation comes from people calling each other at 10:30 at night with a new idea. It comes from saying no to 1,000 things to make sure we don't get on the wrong track or try to do too much. By Steve Jobs. Everything changed after Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997. Decisions were made to achieve the excellence in execution. Stopped licensing program, eliminated 70% of new projects. Product line was reduced from 15 to only 3. Website was launched for direct sales. Sophisticated marketing kept product development complete secret. Shut down facilities and moved them abroad. Inventory was reduced from months to a few days. Apple also adopted the platform strategy for its products. They designed the initial product as a platform with an architecture that accommodated the development and the production of the derivative products. Customers' experience was integrated into Apple's product design and development. A lot of it empirically drives with iterative customer involvement. Apple worked intimately with manufacturers and assured that their product be completely attuned to customers. Apple's product always evolves. The importance of design is a motivation to continued innovation rather than a static approach that assumes a single conclusion. Third, CEO as chief innovator. The really great person will keep on going and find the key underlying principle of the problem and come up with a beautiful, elegant solution that works. Steve Levy, author of The Perfect Thing. Company founders essentially imprint their organizations with their own personality characteristics, and Apple Jobs is no exception. Steve Jobs and Apple seem like interchangeable terms. Steve Jobs' drive for perfection was Apple's drive for beautiful, elegant products and its superior operations. Steve Jobs' vision held that Apple's products were to be personal tools for individuals instead of enterprise solutions. Steve Jobs also had total hands-on involvement in decision-making, from strategy to product and service design to packaging. Fourth, bold business experimentation. The greatest artists like Dylan, Picasso, and Newton risked failure. And if we want to be great, we've got to risk it too. Steve Jobs. When everyone was moving online, Apple decided to move into retail and created every Apple store with the same painstaking focus on details. Against conventional wisdom of open platform, collaboration, community design, transparency, Apple insisted to develop and integrate its own hardware, software, and keep product launches secret. Apple was also constantly learning, adapting, and evolving, from the design of array of colors to black and white color theme. From the closed developer community to the open developer platform. From no compatibility for other OS to Windows compatibility. In summary, the root of Apple's success was a set of principles with deep commitment to great products and services at its core. Design thinking, clear development strategy and execution, its CEO as chief innovator, and the rational courage to conduct bold business experiments. For more presentations about innovation management and technology commercialization, please visit.
Okay, so that was a wonderful video, I think, with a lot of learning from Apple. I'll just try and show another video, as I said, about the design and innovation process at PepsiCo. Just give me a minute to share the video. I'll just share the video with you, and then we can enjoy this video as well. Yeah, there it goes.
Design Center. Group of creators, designers, collaborators from a variety of different backgrounds from the broader design world.
I'm a graphic designer, rapid visualizer, brand experience designer,
motion designer and 3D animator.
I'm a product and experience designer.
I'm a brand and packaging designer.
Architect, brand strategist.
Design is both about the solution, the product, the brand, the service, the overall experience with those products and those brands, as well as the way to get to the solution, both the mindset and the creative process.
I think creativity is a language, so you should be able to explain that to others and take them along on the ride to make that a collaborative process.
There's very little opacity here. There's very little that you can't see. It's built into the DNA of the architecture. It's transparent in every way. It inspires and helps instigate and multiplies that spirit of collaboration.
Innovation for us as creative people is all about leveraging what we like to call design thinking. Design thinking is about empathy, strategy, and prototyping. Empathy is about understanding people's needs, wants, dreams, and desires, starting from a completely different perspective from other functions. Then you take those insights and you translate them inside the strategy of the organization, the equity of our brands, our customer relation, our business model. And then you use the typical tools of the design world, our ability to prototype, to visualize, to create a sketch or a mock-up or a video, essentially align everybody around one idea.
So one of the great opportunities for our group is that we can work across other departments and with partners in the organization to understand their roadblocks and using design thinking to really focus them on the user and the experience and take away the problems that they're facing and transform them into design opportunities.
As designers, we love to surf on the edge between the feasible and the unfeasible, because that's where innovation lies on red. We want to take the impossible and make it possible.
I look around, it's a real set of multidisciplinary designers. The way that we work holistically across every single touch point, the cross-functionality of each individual team's skill sets, the way that we bring all of that together is what creates beauty out of the chaos.
For design to be a business value for a company like PepsiCo, it needs to be totally integrated inside the company. It needs to be part of the way we work, the way we think, the way we imagine the future of our brands and the future of our products.
Being internal gives us an edge because we drive value for the company, because we're not outsiders looking in, we're on the inside, and that gives us a competitive edge because we have a very unique internal perspective.
Well, I work on a lot of different things like sketching and visualization, 3D modeling up to project management in a big event such as Super Bowl.
Working on large brands at the Design Center, I think it's very interesting because you have to see how it fits within society today, how it fit in society in the past, why it was important in the past, and why it's important in the future.
Despite all these different backgrounds that we have here, the thing that truly unifies us is a love for people who experience our brands.
Because at the end of the day, we're human beings, and human beings tell stories, and stories build other stories. And that's really the power of our brands, but it's the power of moving beyond just our brands to touch people in ways that they don't expect.
Our mission, at the end of the day, is the one of building value for our customers and consumers. But actually, our mission even transcends that. We want to build value for the society. We're driven by this idea of designing fragments of a broader social happiness by creating experiences and moments of fun, of pleasure, of safety, of convenience, of health for our consumers and in general for people in the world.
Okay, so I think that was another wonderful video that I wanted to show. So, two important videos of, two companies which are having their presence worldwide, and they are using how they are using design thinking, innovation, co-creating, collaboration, and designing products which they are actually innovating and coming up with new products, creating designs which are aligned to what the customer expectations are. So that's all that I had to cover in this session on design thinking. You see, design thinking is a course in itself. So I just wanted to tell you about the basic facets and the basic tenets of design thinking, what design thinking is all about, and what are the steps and stages and the objectives of the design thinking, and how companies are using design thinking so that they can collaborate, synergize, and come up with products which can actually give them more of valued perception among the customers, and create a lot of loyalty among the customers, so that there is a lot of customer elation and delight that is there in the as a final outcome of the design process. I would like to thank International Internship University, Armina madam, and above all Piyush Pandit sir, the founder of International Internship University, for giving me the opportunity to present this session on design thinking. I hope you liked it. I would await your comments, your feedback, any questions that you may be having, and if the need be, I can conduct a series of sessions on the same topic itself or on other topics if I am given the opportunity. Thank you so much once again.